Chapter 11 The Host Divided. On Rahab, the Tree of Knowledge had fulfilled the first component of Sar's plan. Then it reached to the vortex to fulfill Sar's next mission. It had taken on a life of its own, with Sar's desires fueling its actions. His desires were preparing the way for the Asoavel's forceful entrance into the cosmos. Now, with the sealing of the Zood and the power of the portal in action, it was capable of doing things only Sar could do. It activated the vortex to invade the Great Temple, just as Sar had wished. The screen in the small theater was interrupted by a glitch. The picture of the Tree of Knowledge with the missing palace was clearly in focus. It amazed the children how a structure of its size could be wiped away and leave no ruins behind. The tree's roots were obviously larger than before, and its trunk was now the width of the entire palace's foundation. The screen split with a small section showing a swirling image. None of the children were sure where the image was going, but the larger screen had moved into the throne room of the Great Temple. A looming noise from the vortex alerted the occupants of the throne room that the vortex had been activated from Rahab. Jerahab moved from his throne and stood at the edge of the vortex waiting to see his unwelcome guest. Gray smoke rose from the opening, and the smell of decay entered Jerahab's nostrils. He recoiled from the stench. As he looked into the vortex, the Tree of Knowledge was attempting to come through. Its roots were firmly planted on Rahab, yet its trunk thrust the Zood-filled limbs upward, ready to cast its rotten fruit into Elenthial, beginning with the Great Temple. "Is that a tornado? Look at the small screen," Megan said, pointing to the swirling image. "I think that is the inside of the vortex," shared Andrew. Rashawn realized this was another encoded text. "I believe you are correct, Andrew. Keep an eye on that screen, or is allowing us another backstage pass." "I see creepy-looking branches twisting our way," announced Alyssa. The small screen was inside the vortex's entrance into the throne room. The children were able to see the tree shooting through the passage. Limbs ripped open the end of the vortex. They rammed into the throne room only to instantly ignite. Jerahab's virtue would not permit the Zood's presence. He called the two appointed seraphim to him. The eagle and lion-faced seraphim came quickly. "Go to the burning altar of incense and gather 9 coals each from the center. Then take them and throw them into the vortex," Jerahab instructed as he sat back upon his throne. The two seraphim approached the altar. Grabbing the tongs that lay under the altar, they collected 9 coals each, just as Jerahab had commanded. They hastened to the vortex and propelled the coals past the burning limbs. The vortex closed with a final puff of smoke, and muffled screeches echoed from the vortex as the limbs moved away from the entrance. The screeches filled the theater as the children covered their ears. The small screen had enlarged. It replaced the throne room scene with the interior of the vortex. Instantly, the children felt as if they were riding one of the scorched limbs of the Tree of Knowledge as it retreated from the throne room, jetting around the corners and racing back toward Rahab. There was a bright glow on the back part of the screen. It was the coals chasing the tree and searing shut the vortex behind them. Several of the children closed their eyes because the quick twisting motion was making them sick. Others felt it was the best ride they had ever experienced, especially the end. The tree sprinted past the walls of the vortex toward its beloved home. "We are going to crash!" screamed the children. "Rashawn, slow it down!" Morris cried. Rashawn was not able to control the speed of his reading. The text was guiding him and required a rapid procession of words. It was the only way to bring them through this chapter of the book. With the ground approaching, the children were thrown forward at the anticipation of the impact. The screen went black for a moment. Only the glow of Rashawn's lamp could be seen. Then the room was filled with a white glow. The children squinted at the intense light. "Rashawn, what is going on? It's too bright. I can't see," Aaron bellowed. "Look through your fingers. It is the fire burning the roots of the tree. I think we are underneath Rahab now," Joshua leaned over to inform her. Aaron peeked through her fingers that were shielding her eyes from the light. "The roots aren't burning like the tree did. It looks like they are holding the flames." "Looks like hot sausage to me," Connor said as he elbowed Micklehee. The two boys rolled into laughter that filtered over to several of the other children. "Be quiet," Aaron and Joshua demanded in unison. As they said this, the screen began to pull away, showing the children the full impact of the fire housed among the immeasurable roots underneath the surface of Rahab. The screen paused on the scene. Connor tried to whisper to Micklehee, "It is a full buffet," but the others heard him through his snorts. "That is enough, boys," Rashawn said with a smile on his face. The pause ended when Rashawn continued to read. They had seen Rahab's full transformation from a beautiful stone of fire to a burning inferno. Several of them sensed that they would not be returning to Rahab, for it had served its purpose. The angelics on afar, who had not partaken of the fruit yet, waited in their assigned areas as Nekemabed had instructed. Shatar, who stood a few feet behind Kohengal, was dumbfounded by the transformation of Sar and his men. Because Shatar had been sealed, he could see Sar and his group covered in their zood, as Kohengal had seen them. Shatar was uncomfortable with Sar's lurking and was pleased to hear Kohengal address him. "Sar, you and your men are no longer allowed in this orchard. You have made your choice, now leave," Kohengal stated in a firm voice. Abaddon waited to see how Sar was going to respond. He was ready to defend his leader. Sar glanced over both shoulders and looked behind him at his countless legions. Impressed with his numbers, he smirked. "We will gladly leave, for we have what we came for." He then addressed his subjects. "Let us depart from here and go to Afar's gathering place. We have much to discuss there." He led them off toward the hillside where Shatar held his meetings. Nekemabed waited until they cleared the sacred orchard. He then called forth a portion of Afar's most abundant element, iron. The element rose and formed a massive orb high above the orchard but below the waves. Nekemabed set it ablaze and hurled it toward the eternal tree. In mid-flight, the massive ball split into 12,000 iron beams that landed perfectly side by side, encompassing the orchard and all the occupants inside. "It is done. Proceed with the provision," Nekemabed communicated to Kohengal. The rising elements got Sar's attention. He led his men back to the orchard, but the intense heat pushed them away. The sacred orchard's perimeter was a wall of dancing flames that moved back and forth between the beams, hindering any further passage. Until now, Sar was quite content to relocate, but he accepted this development as a personal challenge. "Abaddon, take flight and report to me what is happening inside the orchard," commented Sar. Abaddon spread his wings and pushed them down to rise. Nothing happened. In disgust, Sar ordered an Abir to do the same. He was also not able to take flight. Unbeknownst to them, their petrified zood was too heavy to rise above the ground under the hardened waves. Sar became red with anger and wanted even more to re-enter the orchard. "That tree is mine. It is on one of my stones of fire," Sar burst out. "Men, we must rid Afar of those who refused my zood. Encircle the perimeter and find me a way in. Abaddon, I will take care of Kohengal while you and your men restrain the rest. Azazel, build me a throne in the center of the sacred orchard, directly below the northern sector throne. This will foretell of my coming." Inside the orchard, Kohengal rose above the crowd. He avidly looked over them and called them to order. "This is the fulfillment of the prophecy of the eternal tree. Your love for Or has remained true, which is evident by your obedience. You have each patiently waited for your calling and have been faithful to your position. You have been humble with your power and exercised self-control over it as Or instructed. The reflection of your eternal light indicates that you are filled with goodness. This is the moment of your sealing, whereby my attributes will shine forth," Kohengal declared. Again, he gave the illusion of duplicating himself as he had done with the cherubim, only on a much larger scale. He simultaneously offered each angelic a piece of fruit. Each angelic had a personal experience with Kohengal. He then returned to his position under the tree and proclaimed, "You are now the Elinthial host, the mighty army of Or." Sar's men had fully encircled the orchard. A strong wind swirled around the flaming wall, lifting the fire off of the iron beams. The cloud of flames recoiled into the heavens and dissolved the waves. A second and stronger wind blew across Sar and his men following the Elinthial host's mass exit. The skies of Afar dimmed. Sar and the others stood in silence, trying to determine their next move. Sar gestured for his right and left side to move forward. The signal was passed down the line. Sar stepped forward. The earth shook beneath them. Rumbling filled the air as the broad iron beams descended deep into the ground, leaving no trace behind. Clearly unimpressed with Orr's display of power, Sar directed his men to continue on with their mission. They did not have to travel far before realizing they were alone in the orchard. Abaddon stopped his march, disappointed that there would be no confrontation, while the others looked around in confusion. Are my words the workers of this deed? Sar thought. He decided to confess this to his subjects. He passed the word that they were to meet under the eternal tree. The crowds of angelics met in the middle of the orchard, only to find the eternal tree had also disappeared. Sar looked up and could see a hint of the northern sector throne. "Soon you will be mine," Sar whispered. With the tree gone, it was the perfect place to erect his throne on afar. There was much chatter among the angelics as everyone assembled before Sar. He motioned Azazel and Abaddon to his side and began, "I stand before you with my top 2 advisors, Abaddon and Azazel. Look around you. This is what happens to those who refuse me. My words enchanted afar to swallow them up, for I rule the stones of fire. The iron beams have imprisoned them below Afar's surface. They will be no threat to us. And the eternal tree has been removed to make room for my throne and my tree." Sar believed his own words and enjoyed seeing the others accept his story. Jerahab smiled at the sequence of events. His army was taken up to Salem at the appointed moment, and the eternal tree was safely tucked away. Upon arrival, Nekhamabed and Kohengal immediately merged with Jerahab. "Welcome, Alinthial host," Orr rang out as the other angelics in the orchard cheered. They had anticipated the army's arrival. Each of them knew that this host of mighty men completed Orr's camp and would end the cosmos as they had known it. Orr called out to the crowds, "I declare war. Let it begin with Rahab." The screen displayed the cosmos in full. The children almost did not recognize the stones of fire. Their positions had changed. They were now aligned in a row, with the portal pulling them westward while the outer edge expanded. Some of the details of the cosmos were obscured to the children by the dim light. Orr had removed the angelics who were sealed with his glory, therefore their brightness was gone from the cosmos. The removal of the Alinthial host was required before the Asoabel could be permitted to enter. Rashawn glanced up from the book. "Can anyone identify that large spot to the west of us?" he asked, curious to see who would remember. "Is that a black hole?" asked Morris. "Uh-oh. I remember, it is the doorway for the Zood thing," Rachel sputtered while trying to recall the portal's name. Rashawn chuckled and helped jog her memory. "Right, it is the Zood's portal where we saw the chest being emptied over Rahab, and that is Rahab glowing." "Well, I guess so. It's burning," Connor said in a comical tone. "Hey, Orr made Rahab their sun," Megan observed. "It kind of looks like our heavens." The children asked Rashawn if he could wait a moment before continuing so they could study the redesign of the cosmos. Rashawn gave them only a moment. Sar was still addressing his subjects on afar when he noticed his vision was improving. He blinked several times and then turned to Abaddon. "Do you see differently?" Abaddon had not noticed anything different about his vision but commented, "No, but it is quite comfortable in this muted light." Turning back to the crowd, Sar set up his operations. "I need a herd of Abirs to investigate the cosmos," Sar invited. 2 Abirs immediately stepped forward. "I need the 2 Isham that helped me fashion my Zood to work with Azazel to set up my throne." Vanity and Haughty stepped out of the crowd and moved forward. "I need 6 Malaks to work with me. I will meet privately with you to give you orders." Looking to Abaddon, Sar said, "I am in the process of choosing my 12 generals, my strong men, which you and Azazel will help me lead. I have the most important mission for you and your Isham division, but I want the report on the cosmos first." Sar turned his attention to the 2 Isham who were awaiting his orders. "What are your names?" "Jealousy and Infirmity, sir." "Why have I not noticed you 2 before?" The 2 exchanged glances, hoping their answer would not hinder their chances of leadership. "Well, sir, we are the head groundskeepers of Rebetz," explained Jealousy. Sar appeared to be disappointed. "I need experienced Abirs who know the outer edge forward and backward." He turned from them and looked toward the area in which the other Abirs were gathered. "So, you were telling me neither of you were part of the herds assigned to search the outer edge?" "Not technically, sir." His response annoyed Sar. "What do you mean, not technically?" "Sir, sometimes when the hunters were resting, many of us would go exploring," stated Jealousy. "We are very familiar with the outer edge along with the rest of the cosmos, sir," added Infirmity. "If given the chance, I know we will not disappoint you." Sar stared intently at them before responding. He was growing fond of the intimidation he had over his subjects. "I will give you your chance. Assemble a herd and go. If you succeed, you will be 2 of my 12 strong men." Immediately, he turned his attention to Azazel. "About my throne." Rachel could not get her mind off of Rebets. She hoped that they would be returning to the Stone of Fire where their Abirs liked to rest. Her mind quickly drifted back to their tour. Rachel recalled the conversation as their shuttle neared the yellow stone of Rebets. "Watch as we move closer to the stone. You will notice the surface is weaved with patterns of yellow vegetation. After the Abirs search the cosmos to hunt for treasures around the outer edge, they come here to rest," Rashawn had introduced the stone. "Are there any buildings on Rebets? Does anyone live there?" As Rachel asked this, the shuttle suddenly hovered over the Stone of Fire. Rashawn had taken a minute to collect his thoughts. "No, Rachel, there are no buildings. The Abirs prefer the skies. They use this stone for grazing and for an occasional resting spot. The Abirs do not live here. The caves are inviting resorts to the Abirs, and the fields of wheat, barley, and corn satisfies the greatest appetite. The surplus of wheat and barley is transported to the Afar market. I do not know if we will see any Abirs here." Just as the words had left his mouth, the shuttle flew over a grazing herd. "Their auburn coats look like hair from up here. They look like we could ride them," Connor suggested. "Of course, I won't say that to their faces." "Well, I do not think we will be trying that today," Rashawn laughed. "Can we tomorrow?" Megan giggled. "These angelic beings move in sonic blasts. They are so fast that to us, they simply disappear and appear. Even the strongest bull rider could not hold on to one of these," insisted Rashawn. Rachel's attention snapped back to the present as the theater screen changed and showed a herd of Abirs gathered around. Excited about their new leading roles and determined to become members of SARS 12, Jealousy and Infirmity scurried to their fellow Abirs. The group had observed them receiving orders from SAR and was anxious to hear the assignment. "I assume your meeting went well?" asked one of the Abirs. "As a matter of fact, the meeting went very well. Better than expected," answered Infirmity. "Does he know we are groundskeepers?" another Abir asked. Jealousy took over the conversation. "It does not matter. SAR wants a herd to inspect the cosmos and report the findings. How hard could that be? This is our opportunity to advance in rank. We must complete this task both thoroughly and efficiently. Who knows, we could become SAR's personal treasure hunters." This mini speech energized the group. "Can SAR count on you?" Infirmity animatedly added, while Jealousy counted the number of Abirs in their herd. The herd cheered in response to the question. Once the group quieted, Jealousy instructed them. "There are 26 of us. I need 13 of you to move to my right, and the rest of you fall behind Infirmity." Jealousy walked over to address the group to his right. He studied the pack, looking for a leader to choose. "Bashan," he called out. The assembly split, giving way for Bashan, who was situated in the back, to make his way forward. Unlike the others, he was not a groundskeeper. Bashan had been unable to move through the Abir crowd fast enough to answer SAR's call. When he saw the groundskeeper's appointment, he had joined their herd to assure his involvement in the assignment. He was determined to get close to SAR through Jealousy and Infirmity. Jealousy had called him forward because he knew Bashan was a born leader and perfect for this position. "I am appointing you the leader of this group. You know the cosmos better than anyone here. I want this group to search the outer edge," he declared. Bashan displayed very little emotion. He simply nodded in compliance with Jealousy's order. "Pay attention and do not overlook anything. Closely observe any new findings the outer edge may have uncovered. When you are finished, go directly to Rebets. Infirmity and I will help the remaining group investigate the Stones of Fire. Rebets will be our last stone to explore. so we will meet you at the eastern caves and take your full report." Bashan turned to the 12. "Follow me," he ordered, and immediately tore into the cosmos toward the outer edge. Jealousy then walked to the next group. "Listen up," he called out to get their attention. "We will travel together to each stone. Upon arrival, we will separate. You will each be given a section of the stone to thoroughly explore. We will then reassemble at the designated location to collect your findings. Rahab will be our first stop," he explained.